The Middle Ages, a time of knights, castles, and contradictions, especially when it came to women. On one hand, romanticized tales of courtly love. On the other, sermons warning that women were the root of all sin. This era wasn't just about sword fights and epic battles. It was also about social rules, fear of temptation, and trying to make sense of human relationships in a world ruled by religion. Let's start with the church. Clergy and scholars didn't paint women in a flattering light. Biblical quotes like, "From woman came sin," were repeated again and again, just to drive the point home. Aristotle, the ancient Greek philosopher whose ideas heavily influenced medieval thought, believed women were incomplete men, and medieval theologians ran with that. St. Jerome took it a step further. He suggested husbands should discipline their wives regularly. Imagine anyone taking that advice seriously today. They'd be in court before finishing the sentence. But back then, it was considered normal. Women were seen as morally weak, temptresses at worst, naive at best. Woman is the gateway to the devil, claimed medieval preachers. Not much room for nuance there. Especially tough was the life of red-haired women. They were often associated with witchcraft, not because of anything they did, but because their hair looked suspicious. Inquisitor Heinrich Kramer went off the rails with this idea. In his infamous book, the Malleus Maleficarum, the go-to manual for witch hunters, he claimed that some witches could steal men's genitals and keep them in nests. Yes, nests. According to him, one woman even let a peasant climb a tree to choose one, until she stopped him saying, "Wait, that one belongs to the parish priest, put it back." Absurd? Absolutely. But back then it was treated as serious theology. While men made the rules, women made the world function. When husbands went off to war, on pilgrimages, or were simply absent, it was women who managed the land, handled the money, kept the estates running. But legally, they had almost no rights. Property ownership, legal testimony, inheritance, all limited or restricted entirely. Marriage was rarely about love. It was about alliances, land, and social standing. Most marriages were arranged early, especially for noble families. Girls could be married off at 12, boys at 14. The church approved as long as there was consent. Though how much consent a 12-year-old could give, well, that's another discussion. Love, if it existed, had to stay hidden. Romantic feelings weren't denied, but they were expected to take a back seat to duty and obedience. And what about anything outside heterosexual norms? That was harshly condemned. Sodomy, for example, wasn't just a sin. It could cost you your property, your reputation, even your life. Men in the Middle Ages spent an odd amount of time trying to understand women, usually without ever speaking to them directly. Thomas Aquinas, one of the era's most influential theologians, tried to categorize women as if they were seasons or star signs. Scholars linked female behavior to celestial bodies. The moon, changing and mysterious, became a symbol of womanhood, unstable, unpredictable, yet captivating. As for beauty, pale skin, high foreheads, no eyebrows, yes, women would shave them off. If you had round cheeks or a tan from working outdoors, that wasn't beauty, that was peasant. Social class influenced everything, and even how you were supposed to look. And flirting? It wasn't about curves or skin. It was about subtle gestures. A glance, a tilt of the head, the way a woman dropped her handkerchief by accident. Letting your hair down in public? That had the same impact back then as walking into a room in a swimsuit today. The church, of course, had strong views on physical intimacy. It was a test of restraint, acceptable only within marriage and only for the purpose of creating children. Pleasure? That was frowned upon. Even within marriage, sex was to be moderate. Some theologians even listed a hierarchy of acceptable positions. Spoiler, it wasn't a long list. But here's the thing, people are people. Rules only go so far. Despite the restrictions, love found a way, in poems, secret meetings, coded letters, and passionate stares across market stalls. As for contraception, officially forbidden. The church considered it sinful to interfere with God's will. But medieval women weren't naive. They used herbs, rituals, and advice passed down quietly from mothers and grandmothers. None of it was reliable, but it was all they had. The only fully effective method? Abstinence. Judging by medieval birth rates, not very popular. Peasant life gets overlooked in all this. What did regular people think about marriage, love, or intimacy? We don't have their letters or diaries, but we do have one clue: the size of their families. 10, 12, sometimes 15 children. Let's just say they figured it out. And daily life? It was no fairy tale. Bathing was rare. Soap was a luxury. Water had to be hauled in buckets, heated over fire, not exactly spa day. Still, women were the ones keeping things clean as best they could. Childbirth was risky. No hospitals, no pain relief, and limited medical knowledge. Midwives were essential, but often mistrusted by the church. Some were even accused of witchcraft if things went wrong. Raising children was also considered a woman's duty. Boys were prepared for work or war. Girls were taught obedience, domestic skills, and, if they were lucky, how to read a prayer book. Most peasant girls didn't go to school. Education was for the upper class, and mostly for boys. Still, women formed tight communities. They helped each other with births, meals, stories, and survival. It wasn't all misery, and there was laughter, friendship, and moments of pride. In the end, the Middle Ages weren't as loveless or grim as they're sometimes portrayed. Yes, it was a time of harsh rules and deep-seated prejudices, but people still fell in love, still broke the rules, still lived messy, complicated, very human lives. Thanks for watching. Leave your thoughts in the comments.